Hey guys, Fizzlezz here, and welcome back to my Practical Guide to Support series where I go over in depth the specific intricacies of a support champion and their build, runes, combos, and other advanced tips that you may not know about. Now, it's been a while since my last video, but the reason I'm doing this video is because, as you can see from the title, Nami is the support champion we're going to be going over today, and Nami right now is very strong in meta for one reason, and that is because he's very good with certain ADCs, such as Lucian and MF, and also any AP mage in the bot lane, such as Ziggs, Karthus, etc. So, and also I guess Mandate got buffed a little bit, so that's also why she's risen in popularity. But the second reason why I want to talk about Nami today is because of the hashtag teamseas initiative that Mr. Beats just launched. He and a bunch of other creators on YouTube are trying to promote taking 30 million pounds of trash out of the seas. And I mean, who wouldn't support that? And even though I'm a really small creator, I still want to put in my 2 cents and see if I can make any change. Oh yeah, and also, if you see this right here is probably going to get me, if I let it grow any longer, it's probably going to get me some restraining orders from the nearby elementary school, but I'm still experimenting. So you know what, let's without further ado, let's get on with the video. All right, so first things first, obviously we got to do the runes. And for Nami, there's essentially 2 sets of schools of thought, I guess. The first one we're going to be going over is the Summon Airy path. So Summon Airy, just very good on enchanters in general. You do more damage and you shield when you empower or protect an ally. That includes heals, buffs, movement speed, stuff like that. And Nami has a passive that gives her allies movement speed if she uses an ability on them. So that automatically applies Airy no matter what. Even if she's throwing out her Q, for example, which is damage. You would think it's only damage. If you Q an ally, it would actually proc Airy if it's not on cooldown. Next, we have this line. So we got Manifold Bland. You always take Manifold Bland in this one. There's no other really good option because the mana is so important when you're spamming spells in lane. Just lets you not really care about your mana management. Next, we have this line. So I would not take Absolute Focus first. That's just not really your job to get adaptive damage. I mean, you do decent amount of damage, but that's not your main job. Celerity, honestly, is a bad rune in general, but it's not that bad on Nami because she does have a movement speed modifier, which is her passive. So it's honestly not that bad, but usually you would take this if you're also taking Relentless Hunter, because this actually works with this. So you get a permanent out of combat move speed with this. So if you do that, maybe taking Celerity is better, but I would honestly just recommend taking Transcendence. It's free ability haste. It's never a bad rune to take. Next, for the last layer, we got Scorch. Scorch is honestly probably the best in slot here, but it's still an underwhelming rune. Most of these are, so that's why I guess you have to take Scorch in a sense, but it's good early game and then it falls off really hard. So that's what Scorch does. If you look at the damage Scorch does over time by clicking on the little icon there that switches the UI to your runes and how much effect they had, you'll realize that Scorch is not doing that much. Waterwalking honestly is okay, especially with Celerity, because they work together. So if you want to take Waterwalking, you should probably take Celerity as well. But then again, you're not going to be in the river too much by yourself, at least, because that's really dangerous for a Nami support. I wouldn't recommend taking this. And then Gathering Storm is also decent, but it takes a long time for it to get any value. And unless you know like this game is gonna go to the late game, like you both draft scaling comps, something like that, then Gathering Storm is definitely a better choice than Scorch. But if you want early lane domination and you're gonna win early, you should probably be taking Scorch over Gathering Storm. But both of them are viable in different situations. Next we have the secondary tree. So what can you take on the secondary tree? Well, as I said, you could take the Relentless Hunter path, and then for your other one, you could take Cheap Shot, because all your E is does proc Cheap Shot, and then the other one is probably gonna be Zombie Ward. Zombie Ward is really good for supports in general because you're gonna be clearing wards, and every time you clear a ward, you're gonna leave a little zombie ward there that someone's gonna have to clear, or else it's gonna get free vision. And it's not really easy to clear these because it's not as easy as you think, because most times the wards are in bushes, so you gotta actually either ward the bush yourself or walk into it and check. And sometimes people just don't check the bushes. So, and also you gain a little bit of damage, adaptive force. So, zombie ward and Relentless Hunter is what I take if you want to go domination, go more of a movement speed build. Then the other secondary tree we can take is Inspiration. Pretty obvious stuff here. Inspiration, always one of the better secondary trees to take because you can always take Biscuits, very strong rune. This lets you play a little bit, make more mistakes in lane, and spam your spells a bit more without having to worry about running out of mana or health. And then I would not take any of these on top for Nami, unless you wanted to get a free stopwatch. It's not really that important, Nami, because in positioning as Nami, you need to be staying in the back and not being caught out. And if you get caught out, it means you've made a mistake at some point. So you can do this if you're scared, but I would also recommend taking either Cosmic Insight. So that helps you reposition more often because your flash will be a lower CD. So that's good. And also Time Work Tonic is also a good option as well because you're taking Biscuits. And she's very good in lane. So having more lane dominance is just playing to your strengths. And I always say that you should be playing to the strengths of your champion and knowing their weaknesses, but playing to their strengths is very important. So this is essentially a setup I would do for Nami support, either this one or this one. And let's go into the second rune page, which is going to be the Electrocute school of thought. So why do we take Electrocute on Nami? You don't take Electrocute on support. Well, the thing about Nami is her E, the next 3 attacks that your ally will do when you buff them with your E, if they use all 3 procs on that E, it will proc Electrocute without you having to hit them once, like directly. You hit them indirectly by buffing them and making your E do damage while they do damage. But this actually procs Electrocute. So what this means is, for example, on Lucian, if you E Lucian and he does his simple auto E double auto combo, that procs your Electrocute. So that's why Electrocute's really good on Nami. She can proc it like really super easily. The thing is that Electrocute isn't actually probably stronger than Airy because just simply because the win rates say that it's lower. That's probably due to a couple reasons. One is that Airy is really good in a lot like more situations because Electrocute has a 45-second cooldown, I believe, at the base. It's either 40 or 45. So, but Airy has cooldowns much lower, so you can spam it a lot more, and also gives it that shield, and so it does less damage, but also gives a shield, and it scales much better in late game. So, Electrocute is an option you may want to play with, see for yourself how much damage you'll be missing if you don't take Electrocute versus Airy and stuff like that. Personally, I haven't had enough time to really experiment enough. But if I have an Lucian on my team, for example, that could, or anyone who can easily proc my E 3 times, I do consider taking Electrocute over Airy because it's just a very strong burst that they won't expect. Now, also the problem with Electrocute is that if your Electrocute kill someone, you'll be like kill stealing. It's very easy to kill steal Electrocute because they'll be bursting them, and then your Electrocute is the thing that finishes them off. and then you just take the kill. But hey, you need the kills, right? Sometimes the support needs the kills. As for the other runes, it's going to be the same as the domination secondary. So cheap shot, and then either zombie ward or eyeball collection. I personally like zombie ward much more than eyeball collection, because you still get less adaptive force, but you get the vision control, which is your main job as support. And finally, relentless hunter. That's pretty much the best one. If you're going to build Shirelias, you might consider the ingenious hunter. But usually we're not going to be building Shirelias. We're going to be building Imperial Mandate, as I'm going to cover later in the video. So let's just take Relentless Hunter there. And for the secondary tree, there's a lot of options here. You can either go Inspiration, but I personally recommend Sorcery, because you need Manifold Bland from Sorcery. That's how powerful this rune is. As for the next one, you can literally take whatever you want, depending on the situation. You can take Transcendence, you could take Scorch, you could take Gathering Storm. So it's up to personal preference here. But yeah. And as for these stat runes at the bottom, most of the time we're going to be taking double Adaptive Force, because she does have pretty good scalings on her abilities. And that just makes her a little bit stronger. And the main thing, you don't need the defensive runes, because you're supposed to be playing as an enchanter, which means you're not going to be in the front. If you are caught out in some sort of way, that means either the enemy made a really good play or you messed up at some point. So that's what I'd say about that. Let's get in game and talk about the builds. All right, guys, so we're in game now, and let's take a look at our builds. First off, we're going to take Flash, obviously, and we're going to take usually Ignite or Exhaust, depending on the enemy team. Ignite if you're feeling more that you're going to win lane, you have a better winning lane matchup, you want to punish them. Exhaust if you're maybe in a losing lane, or if the enemy team has a lot of diving champs that you need to exhaust someone so the ADC doesn't die. And sometimes nowadays ADCs themselves will take exhaust, so when they take exhaust, you should not be taking exhaust most of the time, unless you're like really scared. But yeah, then you would take Ignite, and then you can even take Heal if your ADC doesn't have Heal, because your heal is actually affected by the healing power items in the support area, this Forbidden Idol items. As for the builds themselves, first off, the starting item is going to be Spell Thief's Edge. The reason why is pretty obvious. It's the best enchanter support item because it gives you the AP and mana regen, and you don't really need as much health as you would get from Relic Shield. And also you can, since you're ranged, it's much easier for you to get these stacked up much faster. So Spell Thief's Edge inherently just gets, if you can actually proc this 100% of the time, it's much faster at stacking than Relic Shield. So you should always take this if you can. Next, for the mythic item. So as you can see, all these are starred, but honestly, the best one is going to be Imperial Mandate. So let's read what this does. Abilities that slow or immobilize a champ deal bonus magic damage and marks them for 4 seconds. Allied champion detonates the mark, dealing additional magic damage and granting you both 20% move speed. So how does this work with Nami specifically, and why is it so good on her and not other support champs that usually go Shirelias or Moonstone? Well, because her E is a slow, and it empowers her allies champion's next 3 attacks and abilities for 6 seconds, and that slow is considered part of this coordinated fire. So what you can do is E someone, and then they can just proc the Imperial Mandate for you. As soon as your thing goes in, the next attack will mark them, right? First it will deal this, and then the next attack will detonate the mark instantly. So it's very synergistic with Nami's kit, and that's why almost always you should be building Imperial Mandate. But the other option is Shirelias, because Shirelias itself is just a very strong item as well. The active, for one, is very good at just helping your team in a lot of different situations, whether you're chasing someone down or whether you're running away. It's very useful. But you lose a lot of damage with the Shirelias for utility, and that's basically the trade-off there. So it depends on the game. it depends sometimes. But if you want to be solid, you can. I think Imperial Mandate. I mean, both of them will always give you decent value in all situations. You don't go Moonstone because Nami, although she has a heal, it's pretty actually not that good compared to some other champs like Yumi and Soraka. So yeah, she's more of a damage oriented enchanter rather than a healing. Some of the next items you can get, first off, Chemtech Putrefier, very good item in the meta right now. It's because it's probably one of the easiest ways to give your entire team grievous wounds, any healing or shielding. So if you take Aerie, this is even better. And that's also why Aerie is a little bit stronger than Electrocute, is it synergizes better with the support items that are mainly have to do with healing and shielding, Staff Flowing Water, Ardent Sensor, stuff like that. So Chemtech Putrefier, if you get the second, it means your team doesn't have to buy it. And most of the case in solo queue, especially lower elos, they don't buy anti-heal. You're never going to see them buy anti-heal, even though it's really strong. So if you get it, your teammate can buy like a stronger item that's not the like a Morello's, that's a really bad item. And also the executioner's items aren't that good either. So that's why you buy this really early, and it gives you awesome stats: 55 ability power, 20 ability haste, and 100% base mana regen. Very key stats to Nami. And then from there on, you can really choose anything really. Staff of Flowing Water is good, Ardent Sensor is good, Redemption's good, and Mikhail's is also good, depending on the situation. Obviously, if they have a lot of CC and if you can cleanse your ADC and win the team fight from that, then this is a huge buy. But usually only buy this if they have really long CCs. For example, Morgana is the main thing, but also like a Mumu, Thresh, all these things can be Mikhail's. So that's pretty much it. You're going to be sticking to these 5 items, not Knight's Vow and not Zeke's Convergence usually. As for, and I have to tell this every time, make sure you buy Watchful Wardstone at level 13 if you can. If the game lasts long enough for you to be level 13, you need to buy Watchful Wardstone because it gives you so many stats for very little, because it upgrades to this item. You get a 12% increase to ability power, ability haste, bonus attack damage, bonus health, and you can store up to 3 control wards, and you can increase your stealth ward and control ward placement cast by 1. So instead of being able to place 3 stealth wards, you can now place 4, and you can also place 2 control wards at the same time. So this is really strong. So make sure you do that. And as for the boots, the main thing I'm going to recommend is the Boots of Lucidity. So the Boots of Lucidity just gives a flat 20 ability haste and summoner spell haste. Super good on Nami, who's, as she levels, her ability cooldowns get much lower. And then she can just spam out all her abilities and be doing a ton of support work. And you can also get Boots of Swiftness, always a good boot. But I personally prefer the Lucidity boots pretty much all time. And the rest of the boots, not really that good. You could also get mobility boots if you really need it. But mobility boots aren't too strong right now because it's a really all-in kind of boot. If you ever get damaged, you basically slow as, like, very slow. So if you ever get caught with this, you're going to be screwed. So that's why I would definitely go for one of these 2 boots. They're much more safer. And they're cheaper. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go over into her abilities. Alright guys, let's go over her abilities real quick. So first off is her passive. So Surging Tides. Very simple ability. When Nami's abilities hit allied champions, they gain move speed. So this includes yourself, because you are considered an allied champion. But if, say I Q myself, and you see this little lines that appear on me, that means my move speed, and you can see the move speed changes, and it's a really large increase. Look, it's 50 move speed at level 6. So that's one of her, it's very simple, but it's a very strong ability. Next, we go over to her first active ability, which is Q, Aqua Prison. Also we refer to as a bubble. And so Nami throws out a bubble and stuns for 1.5 seconds. So this is a stun. It's not a knockup, which some people think it is. So it can be cleansed, but it looks like this, and this is the range as well. Just throw the bubble, and now they're stuck in this bubble for like a little bit, for 1.5 seconds. Next, we have her W, Ebb and Flow. Nami unleashes a stream of water that bounces between allied and enemy champions. And each champion can only hit once, but it can hit up to 3 targets. What does that mean? It can bounce twice. And when it bounces to allies, it will heal them. And when it bounces to enemies, it just does damage. The damage and healing does go down per bounce, so you keep that in mind. But what it looks like is this. So without the bounce, we're just gonna throw this puddle of water, and it's gonna bounce back towards us and heal us. Now you can also say I have an ally here. They have an ally here. Now if I W this ally, right, it's gonna bounce to him and then bounce to me, like that. And for example, say I have 2 enemies instead. Now if I do this, it's gonna bounce to him, bounce back to me, and then bounce to this guy. So it can't bounce to this guy anymore because I already went to him once. And this also works if I just W myself. So it's gonna bounce to this guy, but it's not gonna bounce. It cannot bounce from enemy to enemy or ally to ally. It has to bounce from enemy to ally, and vice versa. So if we add in the final dummy here, ally dummy, we can see how many times it bounces. So I'm going to W myself. It's going to bounce here, and it's not going to bounce there because that's already 3 targets, 2 bounces. Same thing if I do like this. It's going to bounce like that. Honestly, I don't know why it targeted me. This guy's closer. I think it usually targets the lowest enemy probably within this. And I have less HP here, so. Okay, yeah, so that's her W. Let's go to her E now. Tide Color's Blessing. Nami empowers an allied champion's next 3 attacks and abilities for 6 seconds, causing them to slow their target and deal additional damage.
I still hear the song of
so basically what this does is I'm gonna E this dummy right here, and he's gonna have these 3 orbs. Every time he does an attack, the orbs will proc and do damage and slow them. That's pretty much it for the ability. Now you can also do this onto yourself, obviously. And then this works with your own abilities. So now I'm gonna W this guy. As you can see, he is slowed from that, and it did extra damage. So that'll be used in our combos later. Finally, we have our R, Tidal Wave. She just summons a big ass wave and knocks up for 0.5 seconds, slows afterward. So they're slowed afterward. And the duration of the slow increases based on distance travel. So you basically want to use it at max range, but also you don't want to use it at max range because it's very slow and very hard to hit at max range. So that's basically not really relevant to her most of the time, but it is there. And also, ally hit by the wave gain double the effects of Surging Tides. Now, what is Surging Tides? Well, that's her passive that gives her move speed, her allies move speed.
I will see my home again.
So if you actually want to use this to its maximum value, you want to shoot this through your allies and onto the enemies later, and that's what it looks like. It's pretty big, but as you can see, it is very it's pretty big, but as you can see, it is also pretty slow. So that's the main downside of it. It's mainly used as a disengage, because people are usually coming in and you can just throw this at them and they're kind of knocked up and you can just run away. It's much easier to hit him that way, especially if they're running away. It's very easy for them to, for example, shoot this way and just avoid it entirely because it's so slow. But a very underutilized aspect of her ult is that it can be used to like a mini Shirelia's for your allies. So even if it doesn't hit, you're going to be able to chase them down afterward. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, we can go into some of her combos. Now, Nami's combos are pretty easy in the fact that most of her damage is just going to be Eing a ally and letting them do all the work. So that's one reason why she's very strong right now, is she has a very low skill ceiling. But there's still a couple of things about Nami you should know. So first off, it is much easier to land your bubble. And that's the main part that separates a good Nami player from like amazing Nami player, is how consistent your bubbles are. How do you, but we don't want to, you know, this thing's really slow and very easy to dodge. So how are we gonna make it easier for ourselves? Well, first of all, you can E yourself and then attack this guy, and he's gonna be slowed. So that's gonna make him harder to dodge, especially if he has no movement abilities. So you always want to try to E first, or get your E slow on someone, and then land the bubble. And going off this, it's much better to wait for your teammate who has a CC ability to use their CC first, and if they land it, then you can easily just follow the bubble and CC chain them like that. Another thing that Nami has is her ult, so very self-explanatory. You're gonna ult first, and then you're gonna Q right after, and because they're gonna be knocked up, they're not gonna be able to dodge your Q. So looking at that, it's very, very hard for them to dodge. Now the faster, like that was the fastest you could do it, and that's like very hard to do because it's easier because these guys are not moving, but if they're moving away, you got to predict where they're gonna move to and where your tidal wave lands, and then put it there. So he's gonna be walking away. I'm gonna ult here and then Q like this, so once my ult reaches there, he's gonna be there and my Q will land straight on him before he has time to flash. If you don't do it like that, if you do it really slowly like this, they will actually be able to flash out of this. If you look at the airborne, he has plenty of time to flash out. So you gotta do it really fast, and then they will not have any opportunity. But that's honestly very tight timing. I'm basically spamming the Q button as my ult's coming out, and you can't. It's a long animation for your ult, so you can't actually like animation cancel anything. Like I can't flash ult or ult flash like this. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. You can't really Q flash either. The only thing about Q flash is that if you need to flash, if you're like 1 HP and you're trying to Q someone, like you go like this and you flash, you Q yourself, and then if some guy's like right on top of you, they're gonna be stunned like that. That's like pretty much the only reason you would ever use it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So then you factor your E into it. If you know they don't have flash, you don't want to risk missing your bubble like that, you can always E first, then R, then wait, and then land them with a huge slow that your R and your E is going to be stacking up together. So that is also a really good combination. And then obviously the W. And within all this is the most important part of Nami combos is her auto attacks. You want to be auto attacking as often as possible. So like the best trade, for example, in lane would be to like auto W. And then as you can see, the W will bounce back to you and you will heal. Well, they will be taking a lot of damage. You can also add E to this, obviously, like auto E W. And yeah, and you basically don't want to be using Q most of the time randomly, like throwing them out randomly in lane, because it's very hard to hit. And most of the time you'll be just wasting the ability. You'll be wasting mana. It'll be on cooldown, so now your enemy has a big window that they can capitalize, that they know you don't have bubble. So yeah, I would not recommend doing that. But the other two abilities you can pretty much spam whenever you want. Like, and in lane, I'll go over some lane tips for Nami, because that's very important for her, because she is a strong lane bully in certain matchups. You want to be trading as often as possible because she has a heal that does damage as well. So it's basically like the perfect trade tool. And to do this though, you're gonna have to E and then W them while the bounce is still in range. So let me clear these guys, show you this. So if you W and you just walk away, right, then you won't be in range for the bounce, which is the same range as this, I believe. Yeah, as you can see, this other circle right here, that circle is the bounce range. It's way bigger than it actually is. I don't think that's completely accurate, but Nevertheless, you want to be able to stay in range if you can for the heal. But if you can't and they're going to retaliate with something, for example, it's not Soraka or something that can't retaliate. It's like a Blitzcrank. Obviously, you don't want to get hooked, so you're just going to run away. You might not get the bounce because you're running away, and also if they're moving as well away, you have to keep moving with them to get the bounce back. So basically what I'm saying is try to get the bounce if you can, but don't be greedy with it. But that's one of the reasons why Nami is so strong. And you want to be weaving in autos and animation canceling your autos as much as possible. So for example, like, oh yeah, and that's another thing. You don't have to E before your W or auto attack. You can E during the travel time and it will still proc. And this applies to your allies as well. If they're in the middle of autoing and you E, they will still proc during the middle of the auto. For example, like this. I'm gonna auto him. As it's traveling, I E myself, but it's still proc the E because there's only 2 bubbles. So same thing with the W. We got that, and as you can see, the W procced one of those things. And same thing with your ult. So you can like ult first and then E. So why would you ever do this? You should probably always try to do this, even though it is harder to execute because you have to like put your mouse on top of yourself. But the reason why is if you E yourself, now you're obviously going to be looking to proc your E's to get some value off of it. And your opponent's just going to respect that and back off until it runs out. And that's very simple. But if you walk up to them and you don't have your E and they're like, okay, what is this guy doing? You WE and boom, they have no time to react to that. So that's why you should always do something like that if you yourself are the one proccing your E. If, for example, your Lucian ADC is dashing in, obviously you want to E him. He will proc him much easier than you. But for example, if you're the one playing early lane, ADCs aren't that strong at that point, you can actually be the bully and walk up and do this. And obviously E, you know, auto. And you can get auto off and E mid auto. Then maybe land your Q because they're slowed and it's a little bit easier to land your Q. Stuff like that. And that's basically it for the Nami abilities and combos and mechanics and stuff. Now, the main hard part about Nami, I would say, is one, landing her bubble, which we did go over how you could make that easier on yourself. But 2 is positioning. So, as I stated early in the video, you really want to be playing back as Nami. You do not want to be in the front at all, but you also need to be in range of your E. Obviously, your E range isn't infinite. It's like 1,000 units around, I guess. So is your W, okay, well, I guess E is a little bit longer. But, yeah, so you want to be in range to be able to enchant these guys on your team, but you don't want to be in the front because you are very, very squishy and you will die instantly. And that will be, we will go over matchups later as the last part of the video to show you how bad certain matchups can be and why I don't think Nami is a blind pickable champ unless you have a very strong bot laner that synergizes really well with her, like Lucian. So in conclusion, just as a Nami player, yeah, there's a little bit of mechanics involved, but mainly it's going to be how you position, very important, and general support knowledge such as warding, the proper places, roaming at the proper times, and etc. So now let's get into the last part of the video, which is going to be matchup discussion. All right, so we're back on op.gg, probably the best site to use personally for matchup ratios and stuff like that. And you also see, you know, her skill build and stuff like that. I didn't go over this in the video, but max W first and then max E second. W is just the strongest ability early on, and then E is just the next best thing to level up. It also increases damage and decreases the cooldown. And Q is really not that important because you don't need the damage on Q versus you having the damage on W and E is much more useful because you're going to be using those abilities much more often. And also it decreases the cooldown a little bit, but that's not really important. It's already on a 12-second cooldown at rank 1, so that's pretty short, and you're going to be building a lot of cooldown reduction as a support player. So that's the skill build. Obviously, the items and stuff here and the runes that I went over. And now let's look at the main thing we're looking for, which is the counters. And we're going to sort this by lowest win rate to highest win rate, and just go over some of them and have what my thoughts are. So in the bottom, we have a pretty noticeable trend here. Her worst matchups are these melee engaged supports: Amumu, Blitzcrank, Leona, Nautilus, Alistar, and I guess Braum is not really one, but he's also there. These all Galio, Shen, yeah. These are all melee engaged supports type champs, and she fares very badly against them because she is very low peel besides her ult. So before 6, very hard, and her peel isn't really that good anyway. Her ult is a 0.5 second knockup, which is very short, and her Q is very hard to hit. So unless you do that thing where you like Q yourself, which I show in the video, you Q yourself and flash away, or you just Q yourself if you don't have flash, because that's usually a very good thing. Like for example, Leona is Eing you, you can Q yourself and then she'll be stunned, so you can run away afterward, assuming you didn't die already, because most of the time you'll probably be dead by that point anyway because you're so squishy. And yeah, so unlike some of the other enchanters, Lulu has a lot of disengage with her ult and shields and polymorph and slow glitter lance. Yeah, so she suffers a lot of, she's basically one of the weakest enchanters in terms of survivability after getting engaged on. Once you get engaged on, you're probably dead. So that's why I do not recommend picking her blind, because there's a lot of counters to her that are very easily exploitable, unless you have Lucian pretty much on your team, or MF. MF is also pretty decent right now. You can also pick her blind if you're a mage with a mage, for example Ziggs and Karthus. And the reason being is that you'll never ever walk up to Leona or Blitzcrank in lane. You're just gonna farm and scale and hope that your mage, and you just buff your mage with your E, and they're gonna be throwing long range spells out and doing a lot of damage and slowing them. And that's basically your game plan for that. But let's go over some other champions that don't fit the mold. Notably, Zyra is the worst matchup apparently in terms of win rate. The reason why is because usually Nami is a trading god in the fact that her abilities are very suited to trading, as demonstrated in my video. But Zyra actually beats her in the trades, because if she ever walks up, she's going to get EQ double planted. And it's going to be, even though Nami is going to W and heal back a little bit HP, Zyra just does way too much damage for her to ever trade with Zyra. So she can never walk up to Zyra. Zyra can zone her out, poke her out, and her heal isn't really good enough and costs a lot of mana compared to the other heals like Yuumi and Soraka to out sustain Zyra. So that's the reason why Zyra is such a bad matchup. Zilean, honestly, I don't know why Zilean's down here. Probably because Zilean himself is a pretty strong champion right now, and he can outscale Nami because his ult is very strong, and his utility and in terms of enchantment and CC is very on par with Nami. But he scales a little bit better and has more utility. And as for the good matchups, the farther we scroll down, again, you'll see more enchanters. She has a pretty much 50% win rate against the main 3 heal enchanters: Soraka, Yuumi, Sona. I guess Lux and Morgana are also there as sort of mage bottoms. She's pretty much even against these guys. They all pretty much do the same thing, honestly, so they're not really, you're not going to be able to kill each other in lane, but you're just going to be hitting each other and getting stacks on your Spelthy's edge, pretty much. The Thresh and Rakan, probably much worse matchups for Nami than 50%. As I said before, for the melee and gate supports, that's the reason why. Now, Pyke is interesting because Pyke should be pretty good against Nami, but he has a low win rate, and I'm not sure why. I think it's because Pyke is used very hard to pilot properly, so a lot of this is skewed by bad players. But a really good Pyke will probably destroy Nami. So there's that. So if we go to the bottom here, we have mainly these champs. So Seraphine, Karma, and Janet. These are mainly shield champs that can't heal. And what I mean by this is, yeah, obviously Seraphine can heal a little bit with their W. It's very small in the early game. Janet can heal with their ult, but that's only when she uses their ult, and Karma can heal with their W. But their main thing is that they shield. And this also includes Lulu. But Lulu's just a stronger champ than these three right now. That's why she has a higher win rate against Nami. And the reason why Nami fares so good against these guys are because she can heal and trade with them through their shield while they can only shield. So once they lose HP, it's permanent. But once she loses HP, it's not permanent. She can heal back up. And this goes for pretty much any heal versus shield AD support matchup, not just Nami. And yeah, and we don't need to talk about these guys at the bottom. I don't know why Swain's down here. I guess Swain's just bad. I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I have for the Nami video. Hashtag teamseas. Try to donate. I'm gonna try to donate if I can scrounge up some spare change, you know, on my couch and stuff. But yeah, and if you have any other suggestions for the next champion I should do, want to try to do as many champions for season end, and then once the new season starts, I definitely want to be making videos on the new builds and stuff like that. So let me know in the comments, and any feedback as well, I always appreciate. So thanks to everyone who's made it this far in the video. Appreciate you very much, and I'll see you next time. Peace.